Hey, this is Mike from Introstars, and today we're super excited to bring you a new episode of the Super Connectors podcast with a very special VIP guest, Maxim the Futurologist. Hey Maxim, so nice to have you here today.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
Really exciting. Can you tell us more about yourself and also what it means for you to be a super connector?
Goodness, well, when I was a kid, my father said, say yes first and find out how later, and you'll live a more interesting life. But he didn't mention getting enough sleep. Actually, he briefly became a famous DJ in London because a friend said, can you DJ? And he said yes, and then asked my mother, what's a DJ? But he worked it out. Yeah. So I share my time now between hosting, I run a conference called the Creativity Conference. We explore the essence of creative thinking. I direct feature films. I write the official book on Adobe Premiere Pro, if you're familiar with that.
Yep.
The official book on Audition, a couple of thousand tutorials on post-production now. And I consult on future and emerging technology. And my job as a futurist, which I think is coming back into fashion as a word now a little bit, is to forecast what's going to happen and when, and be as accurate as possible. And because I do a lot of keynotes around the world, I have these fantastic opportunities to meet people. Now, I have an actor's background, and I occasionally still do act. But so I always felt very confident speaking to people. But I think a key part of what gives me that comfort, there's two parts to it. One is that as a child, I was raised to speak to adults eye to eye. Yeah. So if I was naughty, I would say, you're right, I was naughty. You know, I used to get into trouble at school for that, because they'd say, you should give me a detention. And the teachers thought I was facing them down. But another part of it is I've always had a great interest in philosophy. I just wrote my first philosophy book. And there was a little note I read on a website where a guy, he did every kind of self-help thing and tried them out and documented it. And he said, when you meet people, there are two ways you can approach it. One way is I share a little about myself, you share a little about yourself, and piece by piece we willingly, intentionally share little slivers of information, and we get to know each other. Yeah. And it's very safe, and that's how most people do it. But it's very slow. Another way, even if you don't believe it's true, is act as if we are all one. There is no you and me, there's just we. Yeah. And we're not meeting each other, we're remembering each other.
I love that.
So it's more like meeting a family member you haven't seen in a long time. And now I am open and relaxed, and you're open and relaxed. Reciprocal psychology means we tend to reciprocate. And now you can get right to the heart of the matter and find out if there's a true human connection.
And so how did you become this super connector, super networker? Was there a pivotal moment in your life that brought you there?
I think I just sort of stumbled into being one of those people that's known for knowing people. I love meeting people. I think that's the heart of it, really. I'm fascinated by this crazy thing called life. And I don't know about anybody else, but I'm having the wildest time. Nothing makes any sense until I have coffee. And even then, it's only a little bit. And I know that everybody else is on the same wild merry-go-round. We're all winging it. We're all trying to make the most of it. And I think that's a critical thing, that you recognize that we're all kind of making it up. And however cool people seem, however in control they seem, they're definitely winging it too. And if you can just show a little humanity and connect with them, it's easy. And so over the years, I've ended up with such incredible friends. You know, I found the people that run companies, the people that lead organizations, doesn't matter what the scale is, they tend to be absolutely extraordinary, really, really interesting people. Yeah. And if you're not impressed by them, you can't have a relationship with someone that you're impressed by. It's not possible, because you're putting them on a pedestal. Yeah. And as soon as you show that you're impressed by somebody, you're telling them that you're rejecting their friendship. It doesn't work. Okay. But on the flip side, I think it's necessary to respect people that you have a relationship with. This applies to all kinds of relationships. So I respect everybody. I think you made it this far, that's amazing, right? You still got 2 arms and legs, you're doing great, you're still breathing. Yeah. My favorite book in the world, Illusions by Richard Bach. Okay. Says, if you're wondering if you have finished what you came here to do, if you're still breathing, no, you're not. You haven't finished. You've still got some more stuff to do. So I suppose the tipping point was years ago, somebody said to me, oh, Maxim, you know everybody. Do you know someone that could do this? Or do you know someone connected to that? And it turned out I did. And then I started to be more and more known as someone where people would just reach out and say, I'm looking for someone, you know, a rock star in this field. And I would think, well, I know 5 people like that. I love making introductions. It costs me 2 sentences in an email. And I just love seeing what emerges from that. I love, if you like, holding the space. And that's one of the things that we do at the Creativity Conference. I also, there's this weird thing in the world. There's a sort of hierarchical elite thing going on where people check out. You must have had this experience. You're at a networking event.
Yep.
And you're having a really interesting conversation about, are robots going to take over the world? Or, should you put nutmeg in a lasagna sauce? Or something really interesting. And the person you're talking to is doing this. They're like, yeah, I really think nutmeg's interesting in bolognese sauce. And they're looking for someone more important than you to talk to. Unless they apologize and say, I'm waiting for my friend, I hope you don't mind. Yeah. So,
or there's also FOMO. When you're networking, you're also FOMO to speak to other people, even if you're enjoying the conversation. So unfortunately, networking events are not the best place of in-depth conversations because your mind is distracted. Right.
And you need to get out of it sometimes as well. Yes. Actually, I have some magic language to do that. If you're speaking to somebody, you don't want to be rude, you don't want to end the conversation early.
So what's your magic language?
What you say is, listen, it's been really great to meet you. I already feel like I learned a lot, and we've exchanged contact details. I'm really looking forward to talking to you more. But I don't want to take over your evening. I know you're here to meet other people, and I don't want to just dominate your time. So I'll let you circulate, and I'll catch you later on. I'll follow up tomorrow.
What a perfect British way to do it. I love it.
Yeah, it's either that or poke them in the eye, to get rid of them.
Love it.
But I think that this connecting thing is important, and getting away from that idea that you can tell when someone's important. I met a guy at a networking event in Cannes Film Festival, and I'm directing films. I'm there for the festival, and everyone was there in their fancy suits, drinking champagne, trying to impress each other. It was incredibly boring. And there was one guy standing on his own in the middle of the room smiling. And I thought, I'm just going to talk to that guy, of course, who turned out to be the mayor of the old town and owned a multi-billion-dollar studio complex. And we had a ball. It was absolutely great. So as a reaction to all of that exclusivity, a friend of mine and I founded now one of the most famous parties at the Cannes Film Festival. Oh. So we founded it's called the Cannes Pajama Party.
That sounds like fun.
It's an amazing fun event. We run it like a Forbes party, unlimited champagne. We have Getty Images doing the photography. It's in an Art Nouveau villa. And we specifically don't care who comes. So it's a lottery to get in. First name, last name, email address, totally free. And hot snacks, white cloth, serving staff, cocktails, you name it. But you can only come in if you're wearing pajamas or a onesie.
That's a great dress code.
No sexy stuff, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And so, but the outcome is that you've got everyone's armor's off. Yeah. And so again, I think what's critical in networking is that you make a human connection because that's where the trust is rooted. Yeah. You can hide any lie you want in the terms and conditions. That was that old joke that years ago they used to say you could put a full copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf in the iTunes user agreement. And as long as it began on page 2, literally nobody would know it was there. Yeah. And it's the same with contracts. What matters is, do I feel I can trust you? Not your organization, not your accountant, not the CEO, you. Am I talking to a person of integrity?
Yeah, I always think about human to human, not human to company. I don't care about your company. I care about you as a person. Right. That's so much more important. I love that approach. Yeah.
And the only way that you can convey that sense of having true integrity is to actually have it. And so when you're faced with opportunities in life where you could mess with the system a bit, maybe you could profit from someone else's loss, and nobody would know, you would know. Yeah. And it's critical that you act with impeccable integrity, especially when no one else would know. Yeah. So that when someone looks you in the eye and says, what do you think? Could we work together? You look them back in the eye and say, yes, or I don't know. Yeah. And you mean it. You've got to mean your words.
Yeah. And also be vulnerable. No, I went to a networking event 2 weeks ago where everyone started off by sharing their vulnerabilities, their issues, their life problems to lower the barriers so that you show your vulnerability and people that trust you right away. And for me, that was a game changer. And I think when you go to networking events, that can also be a very powerful statement to start by introducing yourself with your problems, your issues, and not how you're the most amazing person in the world, right? And that can be a game changer.
I just think trying to be cool isn't cool, right? And I had this, actually, first time I went to the Cannes Film Festival, 3 days in, I spent 7 years training to be a film director. Yeah. And I love directing films. Yeah. 3 days in, I thought I have to quit the industry. I barely started, but I wasn't cool enough or tall enough. Like, everyone's really tall at film festivals.
It's a thing, okay.
And I wasn't wealthy enough, and everybody was rushing somewhere. Yeah. And I was just watching people going by and thinking, where are they? Like, where were the memos to tell you where to go? So I decided I'm quitting the industry, but I was a poor indie filmmaker, and it was more expensive to change the flight to go home early than stay.
Yeah.
So I decided, well, I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to be myself for the next week. I'm out anyway. I'm leaving the industry.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, it's like an origin story. I had the most unbelievably incredible week because I would speak to people and they'd say, "Hi, how's the festival going?" And they're expecting you to say, "Great, thanks, bye." And I would say, "Actually, I'm finding it really stressful. I don't really know where I'm going or what to do. So I'm just having a cup of tea. I don't really know what's going on."
Just being real.
Every single person I said that to would say, "Me too. Can I sit with you?" And we would have these amazing in-depth conversations about life, the universe, and everything, and go on to become colleagues. So it's the human connection always. Then, if you have some way, I have what I like to call show and tell meetings. It could be a Zoom call, prefer it in person, but a show and tell meeting, I talk about the list of things I'm doing, you talk about the list of things you're doing, and then if we find something that there's a connection, great, let's talk about that in particular. Now we've got something that we can potentially support one another on. And I think that concept of collaboration is absolutely fundamental to us. Noam Chomsky said in an interview years ago, the interviewer was saying, how do you have more of a competitive edge in the world? And he says, boring, not interesting. I want to talk about collaboration, cooperation, partnerships, connection, collective intelligence. No major achievement has ever occurred in the history of our species that was not the product of collaboration. And it's so intrinsic to our nature to want to partner with people and support people. You see it on forums, people giving free tech support all the time. People will help each other in the gym. It's so natural to us that our media works on us every single day to convince us that we should be competitive. I don't want to compete with you. I want to lift you up. And I think if you see networking that way, as how can I give, even if it's just to say, I'm going to the bar, do you want another drink? Or I'm going to get tea, do you want a cup of tea? That giving is really the cornerstone of good networking.
And I love what you're saying there, because it's all about helping others, creating value around you. And of course, when you're introducing people to each other, that's really important to bring value to others. And because you really, truly want to help them, and you actually feel that's your calling to help others. However, at some point, you do have to monetize something. So how do you walk that line between building long-term relationships and trust with people around you, but at the same time somehow monetizing that? How do you walk that fine line?
Well, I think this is one of the things I love about introstars, right? The platform that you've established is one where people can establish their value very quickly. And, you know, this is one of those things. I used to teach a martial art. I used to teach Tai Chi Chuan. And it's necessary for you to show your value at the beginning so that the listener recognizes that you're worth listening to. So a platform like introstars lets you establish, this is who I am, and people can just skim it. I have a policy actually that I never read the CVs of my friends because I couldn't be their friends otherwise. They're way too impressive. And for the conference, I have to sometimes. And I think, I'm so glad I didn't read this until now. But you've got to establish that value, and then there needs to be some mechanism, some win for everybody, and that includes you. And so that can be monetized introductions. My brother's a headhunter, and you know, headhunters do this. They make introductions and they get a percentage of the pay, there's fixed fees, there's a payment for making that ideal introduction. And I think you can monetize that meaningfully. My approach is less usually to monetize the engagement, the interaction. I usually end up participating in what's developed as a consultant. So I'm getting a kind of partnership outcome for me. That's usually my goal. But I think that in order for you to, for example, monetize an introduction, it's actually very straightforward, because ultimately, if you're looking for, you're looking for a manufacturer that can produce this new widget that you've made. I worked for a little time with a micro supercomputer company. I was chief futurist for them for a while. And they worked with Surface Ink, that produce Apple's form factorers. And Surface Ink, that connection enabled them to produce absolutely gorgeous hardware for this micro supercomputer company. And so how do you not have that, right? If you're going to produce amazing products, you've got to find the right organization or the right individuals. And there's a number you can attach to that you can say, if I make this introduction and it does lead to the outcome that you need, those kinds of paid interactions are absolutely valid.
Yeah, perfect. And so obviously tools like introstars help you track every introduction you make and receive. And if a deal comes out of it, you obviously can get paid as an introducer. How does that change the game for yourself or for other people around you who are also networking or super connectors? Do you see any big changes there?
You know, this tracking thing is really important. I think as a species, if I can speak with such grandiose terms, I think that we are moving away from single unified sources of power to what I call a distributed network-based intelligence, where there's a kind of collective action, collective intelligence, collective ideation. And the tools, the technologies, the techniques for us to meaningfully manage those connections are emerging now. One of the critical components of those tools is what people refer to as a trustless system. Now, you would think that a trustless system denies trust, but it's the opposite. If you're working, it's a system where trust is not necessary. And so it's extremely difficult to track introductions you've made. You know, maybe I live in, Evernote and Google Sheets, right? So you're tracking everything and sharing everything. But what you need is systems in place where you can set it and forget it. That's a trustless system. And where the mechanism for tracking it is automated for the user. So that it emerges on its own, and I don't have to be the person that takes the risk, takes the gamble of trusting. And that actually enables trust. You can say, sure thing, I'll make that introduction, done. And then if it pays, it pays, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's crucial for us to establish these wider networks.
So do you see any trends in networking, in business introductions and connections? Are you embracing some of these trends yourself? As a futurist, obviously, it's all about new trends.
My goodness, there's so much. I hear a lot of talk about applications for artificial intelligence, but really today, artificial intelligence is algorithmic imitation. It's really just algorithms that do a good job of appearing to make autonomous decisions. So you say, well, our AI is going to check out your profile and connect you with people. It's an algorithm. You know, true artificial general intelligence isn't here yet. It will come, I believe, and fairly soon, much faster than many people are predicting. So I'm not sold on the AI thing. I think that it's yet, but I will be when it's ready. It's just not ready. For me, I think, again, actually it's platforms like introstars. So if you've got a system where it's matching you and it's got an advanced search where you can identify ideal connections, the next thing that's got to happen is really ideally at least a video call or an in-person meeting. And what I'm seeing, obviously post-COVID, is I think we've gotten over the first explosion of craving human connection. I remember how important it was to me to be able to hug people that I was meeting with. But I think now the true value of in-person meetings has become apparent because we couldn't have them when we were locked down. And we had that explosion of joy that we could have them again. But now that difference has been made so clear that I think more than anything, once those initial connections have been made, we need to invest the time and energy in human connection. And that's something that I think will get easier and easier and easier. And in-person events, even if it's just like, hey, let's get a group of people together for coffee and talk about a theme that we're interested in, I think we're going to see that grow. I think it's crucial.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I go to networking events every day. I still love that in-person experience. You know, I crave it myself. And I see other people going to all these events also craving that in-person connection for sure.
There's just so much information, right? Like I'm sitting with you now in a shared space, which means that non-consciously, I'm perceiving your reactions, your non-verbal reactions to our shared environment. And that's telling me something about who you are. It's telling you, I'm seeing all of your body, your posture, all of the neuro-linguistic programming stuff, right? Lower eyelid sizes and all of that, right? All of that is telling me how you feel right now. Actually, here's a great tip for understanding people. This is amazing. Unless you're a robot from the future or a psychopath, and that, you know,
or an alien.
The second one definitely, or maybe an alien. You have mirror neurons, which means that you literally experience what you witness. So if you want to know how someone feels when they're talking to you, look at them very closely when they're speaking and ask yourself, how do I feel? And you will be feeling what they're feeling. And that can be very important, for example, for networking. Sometimes when we're networking, we want to come on a bit too strong, right? We're excited about this thing that we've got. Let me tell you about this thing. Yeah. And if you just watch when the person's speaking to you, you can tell if they're really excited and fired up, or if they're a little bit, intimidated. You will literally feel their feelings inside of yourself. And now you understand what their emotional terrain is, and you can decide how you want to proceed. Could be with saying, hey, let's get a coffee, or a break in the conversation. Yeah. Empathy is fundamental to human connection and to networking.
I mean, that's a great tip. Thank you so much. Maybe I should pay a bit more attention to the people I meet when I'm super excited and talk to them at networking events. But
I have a feeling you're good at that. We met randomly, and
exactly, right?
Instantly there was we had a fantastic conversation. So.
Exactly. That's why you're here today. Love it. So how can people follow you? What are you working on right now? And what are the next big projects for you?
Goodness. Okay, so there's the Creativity Conference. Yep. The website is just www.creativityconference.is, which is the Icelandic domain. We're planning a big conference in Iceland in 2026. I'm Maxim Jago. I'm on everything as Maxim Jago, maximjago.com, Instagram, LinkedIn. Sometimes I post recordings of my keynotes on LinkedIn, so that's not a bad place to start.
Cool. I can't wait to see your next keynote. Hopefully attend your Iceland conference.
Oh, yes.
So that would be great. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today, Maxime. We could continue this conversation for hours and hours. So many nuggets of wisdom. Absolutely loved it. And so thank you so much again, and I hope to see you very soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care. Bye.